Justin Hover actually has a really, I think, provocative thing to say. He says, Fae, that is fairies, are the cracks on the edge of civilization. Not quite here be dragons, more just the weird shadows in the corner of your eye. What do you think of that? I like that.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, so the thing is that a fairy is something that you cannot quite pin down. As soon as you pin it down, it becomes something else. Dragons are this way a little bit too, where if you focus on them too much and you try to like taxonomize them, then they always end up in some other category. The whole point of a fairy is this thing that's on the edge of your perception. It's on the edge of your experience. It's the broken down remnants left over from something that came before. I mean, you mentioned, like Fomorians and things like that, but there are peoples, if you look at the Book of the Invasions of Ireland or something like that, which I've done a Universal History episode on, some of those groups were obviously like sort of Nephilim in the sense that they were giants, they were half god and half man, et cetera, and then other groups came in and completely eradicated them, and then other groups came in and eradicated them, and then other groups came in, because if you're in Brittany or if you're in the British Isles, you are on the edge of the world, and it's where everything gets pushed to at the end, right? When it sort of runs out, this is where the remainder goes.
That's where all the fairy refugees are.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to think about it, is that fairies are sort of refugees from broken spiritual hierarchies. This doesn't mean that they're neutral spirits. The point is not the neutrality, the point is the ambiguity, and those are not the same thing.
Yeah.
And so in all of the eyewitness accounts, and there are quite many, where fairies encounter Christians, the fairies almost always want to know one thing, which is, could we be saved? Is there any hope for us? And the answer, and sometimes they just show up and they ask, like, somebody milking their cow, and they're, that person has a really bad day, or but very often they show up and they sort of ask they show up to some priest as he's like making his rounds. Father, can we be saved? Is there going to be any hope for us? Sometimes the priest says, recite the Our Father, and so the fairy says, Our. And then he tries to say Father, and he can't do it, and he throws himself in the nearest body of water. That happens sometimes. What also sometimes happens is that the priest says, I don't know, let me ask the bishop. And the bishop says, that can't be known until the day of judgment. So there's a kind of ambiguity in these stories. And I think it's really important that we just understand the ways that fairies are operating in these kind of traditional stories, and we do not try too hard to sort of taxonomize, because the point is that whatever this thing is, that can't be known until the day of judgment. Like, it's something that has lost connection with its telos, so it doesn't know what it's moving toward. It doesn't know where it's going to end up.
Yeah, I know, like, here in the 21st century, like a 21st century person encountering stories like this, or encountering spiritual beings or whatever, the tendency is to want to try to create, the museum of supernatural history.
Yeah. Or they just like try to psychologize everything. I'm the sort of person, I think everyone knows this about me, nobody will scandal. I'm the sort of person that takes things like eyewitness accounts of fairies like very seriously.
Yeah.
Like I look at the stuff as sort of like, this is serious data, and the point of it is not to make a museum of supernatural history, or also like overlay psychologize somebody and say all these people were drunk, or all these people were crazy, or all these people. It's like, no, there's like well attested experiences over wide numbers of people that have, I'm sounding like a crazy person on the internet now, okay, but there are well attested experiences over large numbers of people over considerable amounts of time, where they describe having the same kind of experiences, and you have to sort of look at this and say, are these people all crazy, or is there something going on here? And if there's something going on here, then what might it be? I mean, I like the idea that they're the cracks on the edge of civilization. It's something by its nature which you cannot pin down or taxonomize. If you try to do that, and you're like, how is a sprite related to a pixie, or and which one's an elf, or anything like that? Like, the only way to safely do anything like that would be to spend 50 years toiling away in obscurity on a vast legendarium full of complex languages and histories.
Who would do that?
Who would do such a thing? Yeah. But anyway, okay.